The episode opens up in Botswana, with the storyteller referencing that creatures once managed the earth and imagine a scenario in which they at last chose to take it back. Following this, Abraham Kenyatta, a safari guide at Kitco Safari Camp, should be visible planning for an early morning safari ride for the travelers. He enters his camp and notification his nephew watching recordings of a researcher, Robert Oz, uncovering that his most recent tests have finished up something stunning. Before long, all creatures from around the world will change and quit submitting to people. They will chase down all people until they are completely destroyed. In the meantime, Abraham awakens his accomplice, who likewise is Robert's child, Jackson, and requests that he prepare for a safari ride. Sooner or later, the two jump on their safari jeep and guide a gathering of travelers through the prairies. En route, they notice a prize tracker attempting to shoot a rhino. Yet, Jackson shrewdly plays clearly music and frightens the creature off, consequently thwarting the tracker's arrangement. The scene then moves to Los Angeles, where two men emerge from a bar and attempt to ease themselves around a corner. Unexpectedly, two lions show up all of a sudden and eat them up. The next day, a journalist at L.A. Transmit, Jamie Campbell, watches the fresh insight about lions getting away from the city zoo and killing 3 individuals. Following some exploration, she discovers that the lions began acting unusually after they were taken care of food supplies from Raiden Worldwide, a biotechnology organization. That night, as Jamie is leading a meeting, she becomes acquainted with that few felines from the area have disappeared lately. The following morning, Jamie visits the zoo and meets a veterinary pathologist, Mitch Morgan. After a fast talk, Mitch takes her to his lab and excuses her doubt that the food from Striking Worldwide made the lions be brutal. He likewise uncovers that the lions have since been put down, as they had become too risky to even consider restraining. Before he leaves, Jamie illuminates him about the missing felines in Botswana. Jackson and Abraham fly to Mrs. Moko camp and get stunned to think that it is totally abandoned. Not so much as a solitary vacationer or staff part is available. All of a sudden, Jackson finds a camcorder lying on the ground. At the point when he plays it, he sees the vacationers taking off from something outside. They find a solitary lion's impression and become befuddled how a singular creature could drive 100 individuals off. Detecting that something awful could have occurred, the two set out to look for the travelers. Sooner or later, they find a transport halted in the tall grass field. Both the aides snatch a rifle and escape their vehicle, with Abraham requesting that Jackson stay behind and post for him. At the point when Abraham enters the transport, unexpectedly a lady leaves the tall grass and approaches Jackson. She anxiously specifies that they ought to run, and all at once a lion enters the transport and goes after Abraham. Jackson is crushed to hear his closest companion's shouts, however before he can help, a lot of different lions appear. Subsequently, he hesitantly moves into his jeep and drives away with the lady passing on his companion to bite the dust on their way. The lady presents herself as a French vacationer, Chloe, and uncovers about how she and her gathering got gone after by a gathering of lions when they were on a mission to see gazelles. Tragically, their day goes from terrible to more regrettable when the jeep abruptly separates, with the camp still 6 miles away. Jackson recommends they stroll to the camp, yet Chloe is apprehensive, as she has seen the boorish man eating lions. In any case, when Jackson guarantees her that lions don't go after when they are full, she hesitantly concurs. Sooner or later, as the two are strolling close by a stream, they are moved toward by one more gathering of lions. The couple freezes with sickening apprehension, and when one of the lions approaches them, Jackson sees that its eyes have insubordinate understudies. This clearly implies that the lion is hazardous, and right then Jackson and Chloe slip and tumble from a little precipice. Luckily, they are not harmed and they make it securely to camp there. Jackson speculates that his dad, Robert Austin, was correct. Up and down, the creatures have begun acting insane. Consequently, he promptly calls the Botswana place for an examination and salvage group. Back in La, Jamie gets a message from Mitch, referencing that he has tracked down the missing felines. She promptly drives off and finds him hanging tight for her at a primary school, incredibly. Mitch shows her a tree loaded with felines and expects that they are being constrained by something bizarre. Jamie burns through no time and calls creature salvage, while Mitch finds a little honeysuckle plant under the tree. Shockingly, when he gets the plant, every one of the felines move down the tree and leave. In Botswana, the salvage group at last shows up at the camp, however rather than aiding, they capture Jackson for slowing down legal hunting. In the interim, a couple of kilometers away, a lion hauls a dead Abraham up a tree, while different lions just watch. The following day, Jackson some way or another escapes jail by begging the gatekeeper of Simba that he needs to go. He makes sense of that something peculiar is going on outside and that they need to address it before the circumstance deteriorates. Hearing this, November additionally chooses to go with him when Jackson gets out of the jail. He meets Chloe, prepared to leave for Paris. They trade numbers prior to leaving close to Jackson and Kevin, alongside a Jeep driver visit where Abraham was gone after by the lions before they saw a path of blood. Furthermore, subsequent to following it, find Abraham lying on a tree. Dismissing the risk, Jackson races to save his companion, while the other two follow him intently. Shockingly, Abraham is as yet alive, and he attempts to caution Jackson about the lions. The gathering some way or another figures out how to put him in the Jeep, and simultaneously the pride of male lions likewise shows up. Be that as it may, they don't go after the people and basically watch them leave. Maybe they believed that the people should leave. In the following scene, the men have proactively shown up at the camp where Jackson's mom, Elizabeth Eyes, is taking care of the harmed individuals. She uncovers to Jackson that Abraham is totally fine without any cuts or indentations on his body. Inevitably, he awakens and Jackson visits them. On inquisitive, Abraham uncovers that when he entered the vacationer transport, a male lion slipped in and took him out with a solitary swipe. The following thing he recalls is being hauled to the tree limb. Hearing this, Jackson derives that the lions were never going to eat Abraham, yet were rather trusting that others will track down him. He then expects that the lions need to spread a message to the human world that they are presently as of now not apprehensive. The scene then moves to Slovenia, where an English couple is attempting to take on a Slovak kid since they are on a couple of days preliminary. The spouse, Nicholas, makes an honest effort to keep the kid blissful. He takes the kid to zoos, gets him toys and deals with all his requirements. That evening, a canine subtly gets the friend with benefits and takes off, provoking Nicholas to pursue it. A couple of moments later, he arrives at a dull rear entryway, lastly gets the canine. However, when he investigates the spot, Nicholas sees a few ruined bodies lying around. Unnerved, he has a go at taking off. Yet, a lot of irate canines encompass him and polish him off. Back in Los Angeles, Jamie truly does some examination and discovers that Raiden Worldwide is really utilizing destructive synthetic substances while assembling their food items. She then, at that point, visits Mitch and lets him know that she thinks the substance is the provocateur of the creature's vicious assault. It just so happens, every one of the lions in the city have begun being fairly brutal. Inevitably, they meet with a zoo specialist and persuade her to furnish them with a lion whelp so they can concentrate on it and track down the reason for their distorted way of behaving. Before long, Jamie and Mitch start their examination by calming the offspring and connecting it to a few wires. In any case, before they can think of anything decisive, the lion fledgling awakens. This shocks. Matches. The narcotic should work for a further 2 hours. Simultaneously, he gets a call from the zoo laborer from previously, illuminating him that every one of the lions in the zoo have begun thundering forcefully. At the point when Match adds everything up, he infers that in some way the lions have begun to convey significant distance utilizing surprising hyper-gamma frequencies. How could he sort that out in Botswana? Jack's mother, Elizabeth, looks at every one of the dead vacationers and sorts out that they have all been done off in an alternate design, contrasted with what lions regularly do. Generally, lions go for the neck and cause a fast demise. In any case, in this occasion, the casualties have cut off carotid corridors, suggesting that they have kicked the bucket to distressingly sluggish demise. Elizabeth quickly gathers her child and lets him know that the creatures have begun to change, something which his dad, Robert, had anticipated quite a while in the past. It just so happens, Robert was an ardent creature specialist, and specifically he zeroed in on their way of behaving. He realized that the creatures would before long turn. Unfortunately, none of his partners or relatives accepted him and on second thought just called him names. Elizabeth then advises Jackson to visit Japan and recover his dad's examination materials. That is where he spent his last years, however she abhorred him previously. She accepts that Robert's hypothesis is working out and they need to be familiar with it and control it before it causes more annihilation. Jackson promptly consents to go and to beat up. Abraham likewise goes along with him. Following this, we are taken to Paris, where the French vacationer from prior, Chloe, is shown. She ends up being a knowledge examiner at DGSE, which is what might be compared to the English MI6 or the American CIA. After work, as Chloe prepares to withdraw, she is moved toward by a crude person in a suit named Gaspard. He seems to have a deep understanding of her, including how she endured a lion assault in Botswana. He makes sense of about how creatures all over the planet have become brutal and sporadic to demonstrate his presumptions from the get-go. He takes her to a mortuary where the canine assault casualties have been brought, understanding that they don't have a lot of time left. Furthermore, in light of Chloe's huge range of abilities, he maintains that her should help him in his examination. In the meantime, Jackson and Abraham arrive at Tokyo and meet Monaco. The second spouse of Robert Jackson illuminates her that they are here to recover the examination materials from his dad. However, Monaco answers that she doesn't have them. She uncovers that everything is remained careful on a detached island close to Fukushima Atomic Center. Burning through no time, the gathering leaves for Fukushima on a confidential plane. Monaco hands the young men a Geiger counter, a gadget to quantify radiation, saying the spot is as yet undependable to visit. All at once, the plane is gone after by a multitude of bats. Jackson is stunned to see bats flying at such a high elevation, also in the daytime. Tragically, the plane lets completely go and collides with the ocean, killing Monaco and the pilot. Jackson and Abraham are crushed by the episode, however in any case they choose to investigate the island before help shows up. After certain long stretches of strolling, they at last go over Robert's exploration spot. Peculiarly, they additionally discover a few ponies that have their eyes gouged out. Afterward, in the wake of going into the fundamental exploration house, Abraham finds the pony's eyes kept inside a glass container. They then, at that point, place a portion of the exploration recordings where Robert makes reference to that the ponies have become forceful. He even discussions about their disobedient students with this. Abraham and Jackson infer that Robert dazed the ponies when they turned into a forceful. Then again, the questionable suit fellow from Prior Gaspard approaches Mitch and demands that they cooperate to look into the changing creature conduct. Mitch concurs straight away, however on one condition: Jamie will likewise go along with them in the following scene. A piece of his group show up at Fukushima Island and salvage Abraham and Jackson. They then, at that point, arrive at a structure in Tokyo where referenced Jamie have previously shown up. Following this gas, Bart acquaints the four with Mr. Delavon, the top of the mysterious creature conduct examination. Delavon shows them a few clasps from around the existence where various creatures are going after and killing people. He then, at that point, declares that the creature pandemic has started and they need to move quickly before it can cause more harm. Finally, he brings the head of the group, who is, as a matter of fact, Chloe. We are then taken to Mississippi, where a prisoner, Radiant Hartley, is going to be executed for killing various trackers around the area. In any case, oddly, before the system can occur, a bunch of forceful wolves enter the jail and kill everybody immediately, with the exception of Evan. For reasons unknown, they seem, by all accounts, to be accommodating to him the next day. Chloe proposes that the whole gathering stay grouped and travel to Mississippi to accumulate data about the wolf assault. At the point when they show up, she relegates Abraham and Mitch to get a wolf for research purposes and requests that the others go with her to the jail. The gathering has one or two serious doubts about her choices, yet in any case they concur. At the jail, Chloe meets Delegate Kraft and Specialist Ben from the FBI. While Chloe and Specialty are bantering, Jackson investigates the CCTV film of the assault and sees that the death row detainee, Evan Lee, was bafflingly controlling a wolf. Haven't been out there strolling. Following this, the gathering leaves the jail with Jackson, expressing that the wolves need an alpha chief to control them. He then accepts that the alpha chief is Evan Lee. Later around evening time, Jamie explores Evan Lee and finds that he had no lawbreaker foundation until 2008, when he wounded a gathering of trackers to death for no great explanation. The following day, Abraham and Mitch go to a close-by woods, while Chloe, Jackson and Jamie are at the jail region, checking out the wolves' impressions and their tracks. Jackson finds that the wolves entered the jail by digging openings under the metal wall and furthermore helped equally escape. Then again, as Mitch and Abraham are meandering through the timberland, Eminent and his bunch of wolves encompass them. However, luckily, before he can accomplish something terrible, Evan hears a wolf wailing and runs towards it, leaving referenced Abraham safe. In the meantime, Jamie interviews a colleague of Evan Lee and discovers that he has consistently had a book of scriptures on him, which probably has a few compositions on it. So Jamie gets back to the jail with a phony moniker and goes directly to Evan's previous cell. Subsequent just a little, she ultimately tracks down the holy book and takes it with her. Then again, Jackson and Chloe additionally join with referenced Abraham. Together, they choose to leave with a harmed wolf that was as of late shot by the trackers. The scene then moves to the lodging where the gathering is attempting to treat the harmed wolf and figure out the justification behind its forceful way of behaving. After some exploration, Mitch states that the wolf is tainted with a destructive microscopic organisms, which he accepts is liable for their adjustment of conduct. He then, at that point, readies a synthetic arrangement and continues to test it with the wolf's blood. Assuming the combination begins responding and showing bubbles, this will demonstrate his hypothesis that the microbes is the offender. A modern-day miracle, the blood responds so viciously that it makes the trial vessel detonate. Afterward, specialist Ben from the FBI visits their room and illuminates Chloe that the appointee is en route to cross-examine her group. Yet, before he can show up, the gathering packs their assets and leaves. In the last scene, a gathering meets Jamie at the parking garage where she surrenders the holy book she viewed as before. Jamie likewise says that Evan Lee has underlined every one of the creature references, and it's simply that Chloe takes out a photograph of Evan Lee with someone else from the Book of Scriptures. Jackson is stunned by the image as the man close to Evan Lee is, as a matter of fact, his own dad, Robert, to see what occurs straight away.